just take a sip real quick and
Sip. Let me
that's
sip my drink.
good. That is
Yeah.
good.
Mm,
Let me see what this is on the menu. Oh, this is Colpasso.
Colpasso.
Have you heard of this before?
No, I hadn't. But you know what? This is definitely going to be in my rotation. It's, yeah, very palatable. Easy. Yeah, easy to go down. Okay. Well, just to switch it up a little bit, what do you enjoy travel
Yeah, of course. I'm all over the place. You know, I lived outside of the U.S. for a while.
for the longest time, right? Do you enjoy the whole process, like the destination, like getting onto a flight?
Um, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a part of everything. Yeah. Getting onto the flight, packing up whatever. Yeah.
Getting yourself
I think I like the
situated.
whole process. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, going into the lounge, waiting for that flight, getting yourself comfortable.
Yes.
All right, well, what if I told you that like one of the most interesting unsolved crimes happened on board a flight?
Okay. I would love to know more.
All right, so picture this. Like, let's just say you are, well, I mean, okay, it's basically Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving Eve, actually, so it's the day before Thanksgiving. And obviously it's pretty busy at the airport and everything. And then back in the day, you could I mean, I believe you still can do it. You can just go to a counter and pay for a flight with cash.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I've never done it.
So that's exactly what a man named Dan Cooper did, right? So he just gave his name and he paid with cash and he got onto a flight. So he was pretty much like one of those, regular guys. Well, actually, not regular. He was just a business guy. He looked like a business guy. These guys who take flights all the time. And yeah, so he was in the business class, wasn't causing any problems, nothing like that. Not a really standout guy. He was just wearing a suit and yeah, pretty much, and he had a briefcase. Yeah, so yeah, he gets onto the flight, and then they get into the air, pretty much. And then lo and behold, he obviously orders a drink, he's trying to get in the mood.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so he orders a drink. I believe it was like a bourbon and soda, yeah, which is like, I'm also like a bourbon girl. Like I think that's a good flight drink. So yeah,
Really?
he orders a drink, and then he passes a note to one of the air hostesses. And the air hostess is like, she didn't even look at the note. She was like, some dude is probably just trying to hit on me, whatever. So she puts the note in her pocket, and she shows that she's doing that, and she hasn't read the note. And then he was like, "Girl, you may want to read that.
Take
You
out
may
that
want to
damn
read
note.
that too." Yeah, and then so eventually she like looks at it and she reads it. And it's basically like a threatening note saying that like he's basically got a bomb, and you know they better do as he asks, or the whole plane is gonna, you know,
Blow
yeah,
up?
the whole plane is gonna blow up. And like to show that he was serious, like he pretty much like kind of like slightly opened his briefcase, and you could see kind of like wires sticking out. So obviously, I mean, what would
Oh,
your response be? Like, yikes.
this man. I would have probably screamed. But
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
that's
no,
why
but
they probably have protocols in place for that.
yeah, no, the air hostess was pretty chill, right? And then like she's probably thinking, "Oh, damn, I just wanted him to hit on me. That's it. Like, why?" But so essentially, then what happened was she informed the pilot, and then the pilot obviously contacted the ground forces. So he pretty much said, you're gonna take me to an airport. Um, I think it was Seattle, I believe, right? So Seattle is the airport that they landed in. And then he allowed all of the passengers to get off of the flight. And then he kept a few air hostesses in, and the like maybe two pilots, right? So they had to stay on board. And then basically he had demanded like $200,000 in cash, right? Yeah, so $20 bills. And he also asked for four parachutes. Like,
Okay, $20,000 in cash
no,
in
no,
twenty. Oh,
$200,000.
$200,000 in cash in $20 bills.
Yeah, so I guess this was the 1970s, 1971. So like, I imagine that's like a fair amount of money in today terms.
Yeah,
Um,
and also what I'm thinking is like he's asking this from the pilots and the flight attendants.
yeah, so he just basically, I mean, I guess I don't know who he told the pilots to send a communication to the FBI, I believe, right? And and they actually like, so they took this, obviously they took this threat seriously, and they got him the cash. They got him the cash, and luckily, Mans was pretty cool. He let go of everybody except the crew, and they got back into the air. So he actually allowed them to get back into the air. Sorry, the FBI allowed him to get back into the air with obviously like fewer hostages.
Okay.
And there were military pilots that were following them.
Okay.
Right. So like he then directed the pilot uh, to fly sort of towards Mexico. Yeah. So then they went on their merry way. He received everything that he needed. And then, mind you, it was like stormy. It was like the weather was wild. So it was cold, it was raining, everything was going on. But then Mans then sort of during the flight, he then, well, I think they were closest to their destination. And then he opened he just walked, he got up and then he put on his parachute, and then like he opened the latch at the back, because apparently like the type of plane it was, like you could open the back, and then the staircase would like descend. The staircase would go down, so you could pretty much you could get out. And then he basically flew into the night. He jumped out.
What?
Yeah. He jumped out, and he has never been seen or heard from to to this day. He was never seen or heard from again. So this crime still is unsolved, right? So essentially, you got to ask yourself, well, what happened, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, do you think that he made it?
Well,
How do you feel? How do you
I'm
feel?
still trying to understand how he got. So they gave him the full 200 grand.
Yeah, they gave him the full 200 grand. Man strapped the cash to himself. Strapped the cash to himself. I guess he took his briefcase with him too. And he and he jumped out. So the only thing that was left behind was a clip-on tie. So he had a clip-on tie that he took off, which is quite a vital piece of evidence, because there was like DNA that was found on the tie clip. But that DNA has never been matched to anyone, right? To this day. It's never been matched to anyone. And they also found some interesting particles that kind of maybe give a clue as to where he worked or used to work. Right. So, and that's part, those are part of the theories as to what happened to him. So, or maybe sort of motive as to why he did what he did, because it's a pretty wild thing to do, right? Um, so yeah, no. So what do you think happened to him? What do you think? Like just thinking about it, like what is your guesstimation? Do you think that he made the jump and he was able to basically land and like, go off into the sunset?
I have no idea because I'm thinking about the weight of cash and how was he able to strap it to himself? And also, like, I don't know the weight requirements for parachutes. So I'm just like, that adds a bit more weight if he strapped the cash to himself to jump. Because did he evenly distribute it across his body? And girl,
It's interesting that you like think of quite interesting ideas, right? So, um, I believe that he must have separated the cash and like kind of evenly distributed it around his body. I don't know the maths. The math ain't mathin' for me because, like, okay, how do you strap that amount of money to your body? I don't know how many, especially like if it's $20 bills. I'm trying to do the math right now in my head, and I'm wondering if it's actually possible to be able to, be able to strap that amount of cash onto your person, and then
yeah.
be able to jump out. But allegedly,
Allegedly he did.
he did, and that's what happened. So, yeah, yeah,
That's wild.
yeah. So there are a couple of theories, right? So, and also just bear in mind that this is called like the DB Cooper case. And note, he didn't even say his name was DB anything. It was just a media mistake. So pretty much somebody said Dan. His name is Dan. Well, he gave the name
Oh,
Dan
Dan.
Cooper, and like I don't know, somebody from the media was like DB Cooper, and it pretty much stuck. It
Oh,
stuck.
really?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So essentially, there are a couple of theories, right? Um, People think that like potentially this guy was a former either like former military like paratrooper type vibe, and that he knew what he was doing, right? And that he essentially got out and survived and like disappeared into the ether.
Well, if he were a paratrooper, then wouldn't they have his information on file in the military?
Oh, and his DNA, maybe, yeah. I don't,
Well, no,
yeah.
they wouldn't have his DNA back then because it wasn't advanced yet.
You're
It was
right.
like,
You're right.
and
Yeah.
also if he was in his own, okay, him as a person, he may not have gotten married and had kids. So those kids were not able to have kids to, produce and then be in this time to gather the DNA. That's what I was
Okay. So,
thinking.
okay. So you're essentially saying that like he lived, but then like they wouldn't be able to ever trace him. I mean, he'd be old. Because okay, by the way, he was already in his 40s
Okay.
when he
What
did
year
this.
was
Like
it?
so, 1971.
Oh, okay.
So if he was in his 40s, it means like by now he would be. Can't do the math, girl. Can't do the math. This is showing my education. Um, but he would be
It
maybe
was 54
80s.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'd be 90. He'd be in
Yeah, it'd
his
be nine.
90s now.
Yeah, yeah,
So, chances are he's no longer with us if he did
yeah.
survive. So the mystery essentially dies with him, especially like if he was careful and then he never got,
And it
caught up
just
in the
never got
system.
caught. Yeah.
Yeah.
19. I don't know how he survived that fall. I
Yeah,
mean,
because it was in stormy weather, it was in the dark, and it was cold.
okay.
And yeah, raining. So like people said that like the theory, the dominant theory is like mans didn't survive,
Yeah.
right? And he basically jumped into like terrain where basically your body would be hidden forever,
Yeah.
right? So or he got like eaten by animals, etc. And that's why nobody's ever found a
And
trace of him.
and also I'm just like, where are the coordinates of where he jumped? Like they don't know exactly where he jumped because the pilots had to be like talking to somebody.
Yeah, I think it was like they were headed for Mexico City. So somewhere in that vicinity. I know that's like a little wild. I should have, like as in like maybe I should look up the coordinates, but yeah, essentially that's where they were headed. But there was something that was found 10 years later. approximately $5,800 in cash. And the
Oh.
reason why they were able to tie, and it was found like basically buried on a riverbank, like off like in Colombia, basically like somewhere in
Oh.
Colombia, off
Mm-hmm.
a riverbank. And the reason why they knew that that was DB's money is because like the FBI obviously serialized they identified the numbers, the serial numbers of the money. So they were
Oh.
able to then pinpoint and say that is actually the money. That is the money, well, at least part of the money, right? So it's like, okay, well, you found $5,800. Why just $5,800?
100
Out of
grand.
the 200,000, like did man's jump and then like he lost a little bit of the
Yeah, yeah,
money,
yeah.
or did all of the money get lost, ended up in a river, and then that little piece of money
Lot of
just
pieces.
happened to be
Yeah,
found,
yeah.
right? So there's obviously that kind of speculation, and also that the money's actually the $200,000 has never been it's never been in the system. So they would inform. So apparently, what the FBI does is like they kind of like inform major banks, and then they tell them that like, hey, let us know if this money comes back to your bank or comes into is in circulation.
Circulation.
Yeah. So apparently they've never been able to identify that. But I would also debunk that and say, well, if they're going to Mexico and he's escaping in Mexico, um, what how strong are the ties in Mexico? You could just be living in a small little town, go to like a little money exchange place and like exchange your money and get your little pesos and stuff
That's
and like
true.
live your life.
In
So
cash, yeah. That makes
yeah, so
sense.
it's yeah, so there's it's not a given that like that money would like go back to America and be in circulation in America. Maybe it would take a while, or maybe like as in, and remember other countries do use the US dollar. So it could be anywhere essentially. So I don't know. I'm more inclined to think that he survived. Like man's survived. Although I think that's just the hope. That's the hopeful nature in me because I think if you're gonna do something wild like that, Jesus,
You
survive, my guy, survive. You know.
better stay alive.
Yeah, yeah. But there's also been like a couple of people who've been connected to the case who they think, oh, that could be DB Cooper, but it's never been conclusively, those people have never been conclusively linked to him, because there was another guy who apparently he attempted the same thing a few months later. So they were like, there's a strong possibility that he was the guy who did that thing, and then like he was just trying to do it again. But he got caught. I think he didn't even do the jump. He got. I think maybe the takeaway from this whole thing is that DB Cooper is actually the one that helped to change like airline security. Because back in the day, people weren't
Oh.
out here checking your bags. You could have like a duffel bag filled with all sorts of weapons, and nobody would ever really check your luggage. So because of that, like they started to do a little bit more monitoring as well as proper identification, as opposed to just saying, "Hey, I'm Mary Beth Joseph, and I did this, and like I want to get
Okay.
onto this flight." So
So yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, they didn't take a look at his identification or anything. He just rolled up on them and was like,
yeah, I
"What's
want a
up? My name
flight.
is Dan. I need a flight to Seattle."
And then the person was like, oh, right you are, sir. Here you go. All right. So, like, obviously, that type of thing would not happen now. But I think it's just very interesting just to note. But
Yeah.
yeah, I also think one of the theories is that like he was like a disgruntled employee, like he worked for the Boeing, because on his tie there were like traces of some alloys that like you can only find for somebody who's working in like high level engineering.
Oh,
So yeah, so there's a good chance that Mans is just a disgruntled employee.
interesting.
Yeah, and that
Interesting.
maybe he got fired. It was the 1970s. It was wild back in the day.
Yeah.
There was a recession, so like he may have gotten fired, and he was like, you know what? I'm gonna jack this plane and I'm gonna get some money. So maybe that's what happened there.